Hi guys, today we're going to talk about paragraphs, the basic structure and expectations for those. So your standard paragraph contains the following. A topic sentence. The topic sentence is the main idea. It's often an opinion or a suggestion. It's not as often a fact, though you certainly can have some situations, some paragraphs in which you're going to use a fact as your topic sentence. Now, supporting that topic sentence are going to be some kind of supporting statements. Now, notice here it doesn't say supporting sentences. A supporting statement doesn't have to be a complete sentence. It can be part of one, though often it is a whole sentence. Supporting statements provide some kind of reasons why the main idea is true, or why I should believe the main idea, or something that is categorizing the main idea. Okay. Regardless, they're supporting that topic sentence. Now, you're also going to have descriptions. Now, you might not have these in some very basic paragraphs, but in general, when you're doing any kind of academic writing or any really real-world writing, you should probably have some descriptions that are providing extra information for your supporting statements. Okay, so the supporting statement is just that. It's a statement that supports, for lack of a better word, the main idea. The descriptions themselves give things like opinions, logic, observations, examples, common knowledge, and facts. Okay, and they help to describe or support the supporting statement. There's generally about one or two for each of the supporting statements, and they can be connected to supporting statements or in a separate sentence. Like I said, your supporting statement is not exactly a supporting sentence. So you can attach two clauses together, and part of that is a supporting statement, the other part is a description. Now, when it comes to the types of descriptions here, I would be a little bit careful. So things like opinions. Opinions are okay, but they're not great description. They don't make your ideas much more believable because they're your opinions. You're just supporting your opinion with another opinion. Logic is a little bit better, still maybe not great. Observations and examples are a little bit better. Common knowledge, as long as it's common, though that's something we can talk about later, might be better. And of course, facts. Now, facts are usually things that other people say are true. Of course, we can always debate how factual they really are. I'm going to go back to common knowledge. One of the problems with common knowledge is that common knowledge isn't really common. What might be common knowledge in one culture or one area or one group might not be common knowledge with another group, right? And so something that you think is true and just you don't have to discuss it, you don't have to support it, you don't have to provide evidence for it, might not be true for other people. And so generally common knowledge, you have to really understand who your readers are, and that if you can use common knowledge if they share the same expectations and cultural background that you do. Lastly, you're going to have a conclusion. Now, not every paragraph is going to have a conclusion, but many do, and especially standalone paragraphs, the independent, one paragraph. The conclusion will often be something like a concluding remark or a transition to the next paragraph if it's part of an essay or multiple paragraphs that are put together. And I'll talk about what kind of concluding remarks we use a little bit later. So let's delve a little bit deeper into topic sentences. Topic sentences are the main idea of a sentence. They can be anywhere in the sentence, usually in the beginning or the end. Okay. They should not be a statement of fact. An assertion that can be supported with facts is generally what's used. Now, like I said before, there are some instances in which you might use a fact for a topic sentence. They need to be focused enough to be supported with a single paragraph, but they need to be general enough to require additional support. That's why facts don't often make a very good topic sentence, because it's a little more difficult to support facts. Now, that can depend upon a number of different factors as well that we'll mention a little bit later. So, take a look at these following ones. A. Seoul is a city of over 15 million residents. B. Seoul has grown greatly in the last 20 years. And C. Seoul has grown too much in the last 20 years. Now, think about these three and decide which one is the best topic sentence. Go ahead, you can pause the video if you want and think about it. Now let me add something here, and that is you should consider the following. Who is the writer? So what background does the writer have? What experience does the writer have? What knowledge does the writer have? Is the writer a novice or an expert? And this does make a big difference, because an expert can write in much greater detail than a novice can. So for example, if you're writing a paragraph for a language exam, for an English exam like the TOEFL, you're generally not going to be writing from the perspective of an expert. You'll be writing from the perspective as a novice. And so the reasons that you give, the facts, the evidence, the information that you provide is going to be probably general, right? Not very specific, not very knowledgeable. The same is true when you're thinking about who the reader is. So again, is the reader an expert or a novice? Someone from the same culture, a different culture? Do they have shared expectations or not? Right. Next, is it general enough to produce multiple supporting statements with good descriptions? So if you can only provide one supporting statement for your topic sentence, you probably want to make it a little more general. But on the other side, is it specific enough to limit the number of supporting statements to fit in one paragraph? So how many supporting statements should you have? Well, I can't tell you exactly how many, but to keep it at a manageable length, you're probably talking about 2 or 3 supporting statements. So if you're able to have too many supporting statements for your topic sentence, it might not be specific enough. So take a look at these again. Which one do you think is the best topic sentence? I think it differs depending on who's writing, who's reading, and other parts of the context. So, A, Seoul is a city of over 15 million residents. B, Seoul has grown greatly in the last 20 years. C, Seoul has grown too much in the last 20 years. Now, given part of what I told you before, C is probably one of the better ones. C is generally an opinion. You can easily support this. As a novice, you could probably limit the number of supporting statements. However, if you're writing for a group of experts or you yourself are an expert, you might need to go into more detail. So for that reason, it is possible to go into B and A as topic sentences. They would be much more difficult to write for. So with C, Seoul has grown too much in the last 20 years, you're just going to give examples or reasons why you think it's grown too much. So some problems that have come along with the growth. With A and B, more likely you're going to describe how it grew, or stages in which it grew, or times in which it grew. And so you're going to have to use a lot more facts and historical information to support that. So for you or I, we probably want to use C. And supporting statements, they provide support for your main idea, like I said before, your topic sentence. They're usually not facts, but usually other general ideas, assertions, statements that try to prove that your main idea is true or correct or the best. So these tend to introduce or categorize your descriptive phrases and sentences that come later. So for example, if I wanted to say that my topic sentence is the Kia Soul is a wonderful car, and one of my supporting statements could be it's a wonderful car because it's great for commuting, going to and from work. And then some of my descriptions would be in that category of great for commuting. So one might be good gas mileage, the other is comfortable, small and easy to park, and so on. Now you have about 2 or 3 supporting sentences per paragraph. Any less is probably too few. Any more, you might be getting a little bit too long in your paragraph. So description, like I said, supports that supporting statement. It provides more information to it. So opinions, logic, observations, examples, common knowledge, facts. Now, as much as possible, you want to stick to facts, things that other people have asserted that are true in some kind of publication. A newspaper, a knowledgeable website, books, academic articles, and so forth. Now, that's not always possible, and generally when you're writing for tests or other kinds of writing that you're not an expert in, then you're just going to have to go off the top of your head what you already know. And so for those things, you're probably going to go with observations, examples, common knowledge, and maybe even logic and opinions if you have to. But I'd probably try not to. Last is the conclusion. The conclusion most often restates the main idea, so it says the main idea again, just in a different way. It could summarize the supporting ideas, so put them together in one word or phrase. You could add a concluding remark that extends what you wrote about, so you could transition to the next paragraph. You can call to action. Call to action says, because of this information, you should do this, right? Or next, go do this. Or last, it can point to a future outcome. So, for these reasons, if this doesn't happen, then in the future this thing will happen. Okay? Or because of these things that I just talked about, in the future this is going to happen, this will happen. All right? And probably the call to action or the future outcome are two of the more common ones. So now let's take a look at this. Let's identify the pieces of this paragraph. Now this one should be relatively easy to do. It's in a very traditional, easy to analyze way. So what I want you to do here is pick out the topic sentence, the supporting statements, the descriptions, and the conclusion. Why don't you pause the video and do that now. Okay, so I hope you're able to do that. Let's take a look at the answers. Now in green I have the topic sentence. There are 3 reasons why I prefer jogging to other sports. The blue ones are the supporting statements. One reason is, and often supporting statements are introduced like this. One reason, another reason, first, second, then, next. So here, one reason is that jogging is a cheap sport. Another reason why I prefer jogging is that it's friendly to my heart. Finally, I prefer this sport because it's safe. The brown ones are the descriptions. So it's providing examples, observations, and so forth. I can practice it anywhere at any time with no need for a ball or any other equipment. Example. I don't have to exhaust myself or do excessive efforts while jogging. It isn't as risky as other sports like gymnastics, racing, or horseback riding. Okay. Then lastly, in red, you have the conclusion. For all these reasons, I consider jogging the best sport of all. So this is just a restatement of that main idea. Now this one was easy. Let's take a look at another one that's not so easy. Take a minute, read through this, and try to analyze it. Now, I don't want to give the answer to this one on the presentation. We'll do this in class together. But as you can see, it's a little bit more difficult than the previous example. The topic sentence isn't always in the beginning, right? And it's not always organized in a very clear and easy fashion, though this one's not too bad. Right? Let's talk about this later in class. Now, also in class, we're going to start this project. I'm going to have you write a paragraph. Okay, it's going to be something hopefully somewhat easy, something you know something about. I gave you some examples here, but you can pick really anything that you want to write about. It's only going to be one paragraph, one simple, short paragraph. Okay, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in class. Take care. Bye-bye. Hello. Today we're going to talk about short message writing. This is a very important topic, I think, these days, because a lot of the writing that people are expected to do are in these formats that are quite short. You know, they're not essays, they're not paragraphs. Oftentimes they're sentences or even fragments of sentences. These are essentially conversations carried through some kind of electric medium. Now, of course, we did this through short message writing in terms of SMS. Now, people decreasingly use SMS, and we have a lot of chat clients that allow us to write more. But still, in those chat clients, if you really look how people are typing, they're typing very short messages because they're trying to quickly get their idea to the other person, and so the other person can respond because it's a conversation. It's not a lecture. And so we're going to try to talk about how we can better write these short messages. So just in general, we have a lot of these programs that use short messages. SMS, Twitter, KakaoTalk, Line, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. Pretty much any social program that you use these days is going to require short messages for the most part. So this type of communication requires at least 3 important skill sets. The first is the ability to write dense, information-packed sentences and phrases. So just simply to write a lot of information in a short space. Number 2, the ability to use and understand abbreviations, abbreviated words, and even sometimes abbreviated expressions, such as laugh out loud becomes LOL. And the ability to remove unnecessary words from phrases. And we'll talk about when you can remove words that would otherwise make a sentence ungrammatical. So for dense writing, really what we want to do is try to pack as much information as we can into a short space. And we do this by considering the proper use of adjectives, adverbs, phrases, and clauses. So the first one, an adjective. Adjective describes a noun, and I think most of us know that already. You should have studied that much in the past. They can be single words or phrases. I put in a couple of links here, and so when you access the presentation, you can click on those links and get a list of adjectives and also more information about adjective order, because adjectives take on a certain order when we make a list. Now, we don't often make a long list of adjectives, but when we do, it's good to understand that there's an expectation of which words will appear first and second and third and so forth. So we have determiners, observation, size and shape, age, color, origin, like where it's from, materials, what it's made from, a qualifier, and then of course the noun. So for example, a beautiful, big, round, old, brown, Italian leather dinner jacket. Okay. Now, you will almost never use all of those adjectives here. But in case you use a few of them, you just want to make sure that you know what the order is going to be. Another way to make dense writing is to include adverbs to describe, of course, verbs, right? So we have adverbs of manner. She moved slowly and spoke quietly. Of course, you recognize that ly of the adverbs. The most common adverbs are ly words. Adverbs of place. She has lived on the island all her life. She still lives there now. Adverbs of frequency. She takes the boat to the mainland every day. She often goes by herself. Adverbs of time. She tries to get back before dark. It's starting to get dark now. And adverbs of purpose. She drives her boat slowly to avoid hitting the rocks. So these are just expressions that can tell you more about the verb being used. It provides more information in a small space. The next set here are phrases. And of course, phrases are collections of words that just form a single unit. Now, we often hear about phrases like prepositional phrases. That's one type of phrase, and there are many others. There are noun phrases and verb phrases and a whole bunch of them. The difference between a phrase and a clause is just simply that they don't contain both the subject and predicate. So they can have nouns or verbs, but they do not have a subject with a verb, like I just said. You have prepositional phrases, which is a preposition plus a noun phrase, so a noun or a whole noun phrase. So in the back, around the corner, on a mountain, and so forth. You can have verb phrases. That's a verb plus auxiliaries. So the bear tried to eat me. That's a very simple one, the infinitive phrase. You have a gerund phrase. This raging fire has already destroyed our home. Right? You have the participial phrase. Reading about the protests, suddenly I had the urge to donate money. So reading about the protests. Ushered to the front of the room, the man began to speak. Ushered to the front of the room. I see those are not underlined, and I probably should have done that. The last one here are clauses. Now, clauses, of course, are phrases that contain a subject and a predicate. So you have an adjective clause, a clause that modifies a noun or a pronoun, and it's joined with who, whose, whom, which, that. So the man who sang the best was the winner. The man who sang the best was the winner. Right? So who sang the best describes the man. That's why it's an adjective. Adverb clause is joined with subordinate conjunctions, as, when, where, while. So he jumped as the car hit the curb. So as the car hit the curb, of course, is describing when or how he jumped, right? And then you have a noun clause, and the noun clause, of course, is just a clause that actually takes the role of a noun. That she wanted ice cream was a surprise to me. So it was a surprise to me. So that whole clause could be phrased as it. That she wanted ice cream was a surprise to me. So some of these examples, we quickly understood that the brown scary looking car was coming for us. Now see how much information is contained in that short sentence. We quickly understood that the brown scary looking car was coming for us. Okay. It contains a lot of information. It describes our understanding. It describes what the car is. It describes what the action is for. One of my classes, Mr. Craig's English writing class, practiced paragraph formatting. That I couldn't finish my homework was a serious concern. My best friend from high school, who was often in trouble, is now a successful businessman in finance. So, short sentences, lots of information packed in. What we want to try to do is put as much information as possible in the one sentence so we don't have to make multiple sentences and thus really waste time and space. Abbreviations. Now, abbreviations have been around a long time, of course, certainly even before the technologies that we use them on today. But they become more popular and more necessary in these short spaces and when we want to write fast and exchange information quickly. So 3 of these that we're going to talk about today are textese, of course, kind of the language that grew up around texting. We have common abbreviations, things that have been around for years, and then also making your own abbreviations, which is something that speakers of languages do all the time. So first of all, textese, it's kind of like Chinese or Vietnamese, Japanese. It's a kind of language in its own right, right? And it's generally used in digital formats, and short messaging, SMS, Twitter, and so forth. These words or abbreviations change quickly, generally, but some have maintained relatively consistent over the years. Older forms used numbers to express sounds like 8. I remember when I first moved to Korea, I got my first pager. In Korea, it's called a beepy. And one of the most popular textese messages was 8282. Of course, and in Korean, that translates to pal-i pal-i, which is bali bali, means hurry up. And I'm sure something like that is still being used. And we used numbers back then because numbers were more convenient to type in than letters. And sometimes letters weren't even possible, like in those technologies. Here are some common textese abbreviations. Why don't you pause this video now and go down the list and see if you can match the abbreviation on the left with the meaning on the right. I'll wait here. Click pause. No, click pause. Don't wait for me to tell you. Okay, good. Let's go. So, hopefully you were able to match up a lot of those. Let's see what some of these mean. So, one here in particular is CUL8R. And hopefully you understood that this meant see you later, right? See you later here is, whoops, number something. Oh, there we go. Letter F. This one should be pretty easy. Before. Before. FTW? No, it doesn't mean that. You guys have a bad... That's a bad meaning. What this one means is for the win. It's like saying, Asa! Yes! Right? W8 for MEL8. Well, wait for me, late. So wait for me, I'm late. CUZ, well, this is just a short form of because. Cause. Are you okay? Well, I think that you heard what that meant. Are you okay? I mentioned LOL before, laugh out loud. Ha 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 ha. OMG! This one has become quite popular even in spoken language these days. Oh my god. Or oh my gosh. JK, joke, just kidding, haha. BRB, be right back. I'll be right back, hold on. TMB, this one, honestly, I didn't use it very much, but text me back. So text me back, reply, get back to me. THX, this one's pretty common. You see this in a lot of emails and even more formal writings these days. Means thanks, thank you. EZ, well, you probably heard that. Easy, it's easy, no problem, easy. BTW. BTW is another popular one. By the way, by the way. And 15 at the bottom here, well, that's kind of simple because it's the pronunciation of that symbol in English, at. So you could use that for time, I'll see you at 8 o'clock, or I'll see you at your house. Now there are a lot of common abbreviations, and we could take a look at some of these commonly used abbreviations in the Oxford Dictionary. Though, like I say here, some of them are so common, but maybe I haven't seen them before. So common is maybe a strong word. Let's take a look at them. So this is a list of Oxford abbreviations. That's an impressive list. Obviously, we won't go through all of them. But I'll just show you. It's listed alphabetically here, and if you go to the website, then you'll see all of these different abbreviations here, and there are just thousands of them. Of course, there's even an abbreviation for abbreviation. Yeah. You scroll down and you'll recognize things here and there, you know. Century becomes cent, right? Commission becomes com. So what do you notice about these abbreviations? Well, you know, most of them are shortened just by taking off the end of the word, but not all of them. I mean, you have things like this. Compound becomes CPD, and they primarily took out the vowel sounds and actually the M as well. So they're abbreviated in a number of different ways, and these are just things that occurred over the years that became more acceptable and common. So going back here, we also have a website called abbreviations.com, which has another bunch of these things, and so you can go and check these out in your own time. As a matter of fact, you could go check them now and just pause this and see what's there. Did you pause? Okay, ready to continue? All right. So abbreviations are usually followed by periods in formal writing. However, in short message writing, this is really unnecessary. I don't think anyone would ever do that. So, creating your own abbreviations. This is, of course, very common and handy to do. An abbreviation is a letter or group of letters that represent a word or a phrase. Now, technically, this is different than acronyms and initialisms. An acronym is something like NASA. NASA stands for the National Aeronautics and Space Association, but it's pronounced like a word. Initialisms are a little bit different because initialisms are just pronounced by the letter, like UN or FBI. Now, sometimes people pronounce FBI Phoebe. Well, in that case, then it would be an acronym and not an initialism. While it's best to use commonly understood abbreviations because, well, they're commonly understood, you can certainly create your own. Any method of shortening a word or phrase can really be used as long as people understand it. Of course, if you're the only one who understands it, it's not very effective. So try abbreviating these words. We'll pause you should pause the video and try to abbreviate these. Technically, choose, heard, wait there, difficult, and this teacher is crazy. Did you pause? Okay, do it now and make abbreviations for those. So abbreviation isn't enough. Sometimes we can just get rid of words entirely, or phrases even. And so a lot of the things we can get rid of are like articles, subjects, verbs, and some longer phrases. So take a look at the articles. Articles can be left out because they're understood. And as long as it doesn't impact the meaning too much, then it's no problem. So dog bit boy. Now, this is very much shortened, and both of the articles are left out of here. Generally, it might be the dog bit the boy or a dog bit a boy. But in a conversation, if you're doing short message writing and you're replying back and forth with a partner, it doesn't really matter because you'll get that from the context. Say, book was stolen. Well, you understand the meaning that the book was taken by somebody. Food wasn't good. Okay, well, and again, it's understood here. You don't really need the articles because it's something that can be just understood through the context. Now we can also get rid of subjects in many cases, particularly pronouns when they're in the subject position. So something like can't go, gotta study. Well, I can't go, I have to study. It's very easy to remove I there because in the context it's very clear. Didn't see. Well, maybe I could ask somebody, did you see my friend Kevin? And then I just respond, didn't see. Well, I didn't see him. Could easily be cut off because it's understood in context. And so sometimes the subjects can be removed as well as the objects when it's clear from the context. Now we can also leave out verbs sometimes. So verbs can be left out in context as long as both the writer and the reader know what action is being referred to. So you take something like interrogative answers. Simply yes, no. You don't have to say the whole sentence. And this is the same as you would do in a conversation, certainly. Also, prepositional phrases. To Chicago. Well, why is it that I'm able just to write to Chicago? Well, in the context, it makes sense. Maybe someone will ask me, where are you going? And I could say, to Chicago. Again, these are things that you do in spoken conversations, face-to-face conversations, and certainly you can do them in short messages as long as the context is clear. And lastly, adverbs. So now, quickly, I can simply write those things and they refer back to something that was said before, right? Oops. Quickly, spelling error. And lastly, some phrases that can actually be left out of correspondence and short messages if the meaning is inferred and understood. So locations, back, front, side. Again, someone asks me, where are you? I could just say, back, front. Well, they kind of know where I am in relationship to the context. Maybe I'm in the back of the building, in the front of the building, on the side of the building. Times. If the context is asking about what time or when, you could say 8, now, night. Okay, very short answers to respond to a longer question. And lastly, pronouns, he, she, it. So if the rest of the context is not necessary, who did it? He. And that's all you really need to convey your information. So sometimes you can leave out the rest of the expressions. This final slide refers to a task that we're going to do during class. So obviously no need to worry about it right now, but go ahead and read it and be prepared for when we come to class, and we'll do that at that time. All right. Well, thank you for joining me here, and I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.